We are recording. We are in biblical word study, studying one word at a time from the original Greek and Hebrew, or should I say Hebrew and Greek of the Bible. And this week we're doing a little chronology, genealogy, ethnology, as you can see. And we're just going to go nuts and pull our hair out and try and match things up. But we started with the table of nations. Actually, we can go back and start at Genesis. Genesis 4 with actually Genesis 5 with the sons of men, with the sons of God in Genesis 5. And we're not confused about that. We know the sons of God were not angels that came down and mingled with the daughters of men. We know sons of God are those that do the will of the Father. And that's the genealogy that we can trace back to Adam, and we can trace that back to God. And the sons of men is Cain's lineage, and you can't trace that back to God because he was so-called a mamzer. I guess you would call that a bastard son, as they say in the Hebrew, mamzer. And we go to Genesis. I don't know where to go with this. There's the table of nations there. There's Gog and Magog, Togarmah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Okay. But I am going to do something I wasn't going to do. I'm going to start from the beginning and give you Genesis 5. And we're going to start with the sons of God. It's the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man in the likeness of God, made he him, male and female, created he them and blessed them and called their name Adam. And that day that they were created. And Adam lived 130 years. This is where you break out your calculator and you get your calculator and your Bible and you start numbering years and dates with these guys. And it's amazing some of these statistics you come up with when you break this down. So Adam, I call it the AM date. So if I was going to say from the beginning of creation until Adam is what? 130 years. He lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness, and he called his name Seth. And we know that before Seth was Abel, and Cain killed Abel, so Seth is the substitute. So we'll go with the AM, and we got 130 right there. So that's Adam, and then he lived, and the days of Adam after he begot Seth were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. So you got to keep that in the back of your head, the 800 years. And as you're adding up the rest of these guys, Enos, Canaan, Mahalalel, Jared, because he's still there. Adam is still there. Adam lived a long time. And after all the days of Adam were 930 years, and he died. So now Seth lived 105 years, and he begets Enos. So you got to go back to the 130 here and add 105 years. And the AM date here is 235, right? Get your calculator. That's AM date is 235. And then you go down to Enos lived 90 years and begat Canaan. So the 235, you add 90, and you get this here, Canaan. So this would be 325 a.m. I call it a.m. All right, because I don't know the BC date. I don't think too many people do. If they claim they do, they don't know. So I put that down. And then you go to verse 12, and you see that Canaan lived 70 years and begat Mahalalel. So you take the 325 from Canaan, and you add 70, and you got 395. Mahalalel. So I put 320, 395 out of here. And then you go down to verse 15. Mahalalel lived 65 years and begot Jared. So it would be 395 plus 65 is 460. So right now it's 460 years from Adam to here. All right, Jared. And then you go to Enoch in verse 18. So Jared lived 162 years and begat Enoch. So you get the 460 and you add 162 and you got the AM date of 622. You can put that out here on verse 19, 622. And then Enoch in verse 21 lived 65 years and begat Methuselah. So you get the 622 from Enoch, you add the 65, and you got 687 right next to Methuselah. So it's 687 years from Adam to Methuselah. And then you go down to Lamech in verse 25, and Methuselah lived 187 years, and he begat Lamech. So you add 187 to 687, and you get 874. So it's 874 years. AM, I call it AM. And then Lamech, he, in verse 29, Lamech lived 182 years and begat his son and called his name Noah. So this AM date, you add the 874 to what did he live? 182 years, and you get 1056. So it's 1,056 years from Adam to Noah, according to God's timing right here. I mean, the chronology could be different, but the genealogy is what we're looking at here. The AM date is 1056 for Noah. And then Noah was 500 years old, so he waited a while, and he begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth. I don't think he had them all in the same year. So 500, you say 502 years, and the AM date when Japheth, Ham, and Shem were born over here, the AM date is 1558. All right. Now, the first set of 11 generations, okay. So we got to go now and shoot up to Genesis 10 to keep going with your calculator to get these dates here. Genesis 10. Okay. Now these are the generations of Noah. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Unto them was sons born after the flood, and it talks about Japheth and all of his sons. And I went crazy with all of these names here and looked them up and where they're from. I just wanted to see the table of nations, where everybody was located. And it was a lot of work. I did it years ago, but I did it again this week. And some of the stuff, I can't even read some of the stuff in the Bible. It's all worn out. But I want to get the dates here, actually. I'm not going to go crazy with all the locations and place names and everything. I just want to get the dates. Where did I pick the date up? All right, we'd have to go. I'm going to skip all of this. This is all good stuff. Japheth, that gives you his 6 or 7 sons here. And you find out where all of these guys are. Gomer, we could go and search out where he's at. Right? And he had these three, okay? And if you look at the McClintock and Strong, like I said, and you look up, what was it, ethnology, you'll have all of these family trees listed there, and they'll have nice pictures of it and everything, which I found it years ago. And it'll show you who the grandchildren were, the great-grandchildren, and all that good stuff. And then you can go and find out where these places are. And where they are. But Magog, we know, we're familiar with that. That's even in the New Testament. You got Gog and Magog. And like I said, I'm going to skip all this because I'm still doing this Bible and the calculator here. And you go to verse 10, right? No, 10. Actually, well, that's the Table of Nations. All right, if you want to go nuts with the Table of Nations, maybe we'll get into this a little bit later. But there's a lot in here in the Table of Nations. And we'll, if we get time, we'll do that because it's all good stuff. And everybody that you look at, I have not read one person who has not said that Shem is the eldest. Everybody says that Shem is the eldest because he's named first. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. But then why would they say that Ham is the youngest if he's mentioned second? That doesn't make sense. It's always out of Shem, Ham, Japheth, Shem, Ham, Japheth. So Shem's got to be the oldest. He's not the oldest. We already proved that. What's the verses here that I was looking at to let you know that Shem is the second born. We know that he's the second born simply because we go through the rest of the Bible and we know that the second born got the blessing. According to Jewish tradition and Jewish law, the firstborn gets the blessing and the birthright. But all through the Bible, the second born always gets the birthright and the blessing for some odd reason. But we're going to go to Genesis 11. I still want to hang out here and do all of this with the Muscovites and the Meshach and Tubal and the Caspian Sea and the Black Sea and Russia. Gomer is North Crimea. The Celts, the Celtic descendants, Galatians sprang up from Gomer. I'm just going to give you that real quick. Magog is from the Caspian Sea to India. That's the Caucasus. And it was ruled by Gog, G-O-G. So there's Gog and Magog, so the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. So that's it. Armenia, Ashkenaz is Armenia, and the Euxine and the Black Sea. Rifta. Let me just go real quick through these here. Rifta is the Paphlagonians and the river Rebas, all right? And of course, Javan is the Greek Isles, all right? And then you got Dodanim is Northwest Macedonia. Ham is Egypt, means hot or warm. And, Shem means name, and he got the name. And he got the blessing. Ham means hot or warm or black. So he went down into Ethiopia and Egypt, and you get the black races from that. And then Japheth means spread out. So he was spread out to all of the isles of the north, but he was pretty big there. So Japheth means open, wide, and spacious. Gomer means complete or come to an end. Magog is the land of Gog, means mountain. Madai means middle land. Javan is Ionia or Greece. Tubal means thou shalt be brought. Meshach means to draw up or to draw out, to raise to life. Tiras means desire. Cush is Ethiopia, black. Nimrod means valiant, rebellion. So everybody had, all their names mean something, and they all They all lived up to it. Babel, of course. Shinar would be Iraq. That's in verse 10. Shinar would be Iraq. Mizraim, Terra, lowland. Let me see. Meshach is the Muscovites. I got the lines drawn here. Japheth, Magog is the Isle of the Nations, and that's Greece. That's Japheth. Madai is the southwest of the Caspian Sea. That's the Indo-Germanic people. Tubal is southeast of the Black Sea. Russia, the South Caucasus. That's Tubal. Of course, Meshach is Moscow, the Muscovites. Tiras is the Thracians or the Goths. You got the Goths, the Visigoths. They all came down there from Japheth. So you can go nuts here looking at all of these nations and seeing where they originated from. And then you try and tie it to Ezekiel 37, 38, and Revelation 20 when it talks about all these nations coming down and attacking Israel, which is happening. Pretty close to it anyway, we're not getting into too much prophecy, but why are they attacking? Whose land? Whose is the land? That's the big question, the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, they say the land is theirs, but we know from the Bible that the land was given to Israel. Genesis 12, Genesis 17, a lot of different verses, a lot of different chapters talk about Israel getting the land. So there's distress of nations with perplexity, talked about in Luke 21. What's the distress of nations? Whose is the land? That's the big question. Perplexity is aporia, no way out. There's no cure. Aporia, no like marpe. It means cure, and there's no cure for this. It'll never happen. Biden, Harris ain't going to make peace. Trump's not going to make peace. He came close. He tried that with the Abraham Accords, and that was a good name. If you want to go back and keep peace with everybody, you go to Abraham. Everybody stems from Abraham, and the Ishmael comes out of there, and Isaac comes out of there. All right, so Abraham is a good name for that so-called peace treaty or accords, but I digress. And then chapter 11, we'll keep going on with this Bible and the calculator. Chapter 11, verse 10, when we pick up where Shem left off. Okay, these are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old, and he begat Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. So you would get 1558, all right, and then what is it? 100 years old, and 2 years after the flood. So 102. 1558 was the flood. 558, 6, and then now 1658 is Arphaxad. The AM for Arphaxad is 1658. So it's 1,658 years since Adam, according to this genealogy. And then in verse 12, Arphaxad lived 35 years, and he begat Salah. So 1658 AM plus 35 is 1693. And then you go to verse 14, you got Eber. Salah lived how many years? 30 years. So you got 1693 plus 30, that's 1723. And then Peleg, 4 and 30 years. So 1723 plus 34 is 1757. And then 18, you got Peleg lived 30 years, and we got Reu. So you got 1757 plus 30 is 1787. And then you got Reu lived 2 and 30 years and begat Serug. So that's 1787 plus 32 equals 1819. And then Nahor is 30 years. So you got 1819 plus 30 is 1849. Nahor lived 9 and 20 years, and he begot Terah. So you got 1849 plus 29 is 1878, if I can read my writing here. And then Terah lived 70 years, and he begot Abram. So 1878 plus 70. And guess what the AM date for Abram is? 1948. Isn't that something? When did they become a nation? In AD 1948. So it's 1,948 years from Adam to Abraham. And then you have, this is where it gets tricky. Abram was 75 years old. He departed out of Haran. So we'd have to go to 12:4 to pick this up. 12:4. All right, so Abram departed in the Lord. Abram was 75 years old. He departed out of Haran. So when he comes out of Haran, it's 1948 plus 75. It's AM 2023 right here when he comes out of Haran. All right, then we get down to, and a lot of people now start talking about the when they were in Egypt or in affliction 430 years. Some people start counting from here, which I think is a mistake, but they can't be totally wrong either, because we're not going to get into that right now. But the dates of the Exodus, you can go with the 13th century or the 15th century. If you go with the 15th century one, which most of us have, but even in the Thompson Chain Bible, it has 1491 BC. So there's your 15th century Exodus from Egypt. So if you back up 430 years, 1491, 15, 16, 17, 1891 plus 30, you're over here in Abraham's time, right? 400 years. So let's just keep going with this. And where did I pick it up? I got to pick it up at, so AM 2023 is chapter 12, verse 4. And then I kind of got lost in my Bible here. So from 12:10. So, and there was famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. Genesis 12:10. Now, if you go from Genesis 12:10 to Exodus 12:40, that's 430 years. Exodus 12:40. So when is the 400 years begin? I mean, we study under Jim, and he starts counting the 400 years after Joseph dies. I can see his reasoning for that, but the math just doesn't make it. 12:40. Now, the sojourning of the children of Israel dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. When did they come out? This is perplexing, and to a lot of people, most of these scholars, butting heads. And I have my own thing going. I'm not a scholar. I don't have a PhD after my name. But some of these guys are so far off the mark that I don't even know how they even got that PhD. you know. And then if you go to Galatians, I didn't want to get into this, but Galatians 3:17, say, and this I say that the covenant that was confirmed before of God in Christ, the law, was 430 years after, cannot disannul that it should make the promise of none effect. So you got to back it up. There's your 430 years. And I want to get to the land promised. Yeah, we got that already. But I have a list here saying here Jacob. So, and then I don't know what verse this is, but like I said, the AM date is, no, that's the birth date. The death date. So Abraham lives 175 years. So if he's born on 1948 and 175 years later he dies, his AM death date is 2123. Right? So if Abram is 100 years old, excuse me, he's 75 years old when he leaves Haran. Okay, that's 2023. He dies 175 years, so that's 2123. That's 100 years later. So Ishmael, Abram is 86 years old when Ishmael is born. So that would be, Ishmael's birth date would be 2034. Ishmael. M-A-E-L, but I don't have it in my notes right now. But let me go to 16 here. Maybe I got something in my 15, 16 a.m. Okay. 17, 16, Abraham 16 and 16. Abraham was fourscore and 6 years old when Hagar bare Ishmael to Abram. So that would put Ishmael in 2034. So you could put 2034 next to that date, that verse right there. And he's 13 years older than Isaac. So what's growing 6? That's 86. I'm not even going to get into the BC dates because I don't know if you start at Adam at 4004 BC. Why? I don't know. I can't figure that out. So the next date would be Isaac. Let me see where I got Isaac here. And I'll just give you his birth date, or his AM date would be in 2048. So that's 35. Genesis 35. 35. There we go. 35, 28. The days of Isaac were 104 years. So if he's 13 years difference from Ishmael, 180. So that would be 20. He was born in 2048. So Ishmael is born in 2034. 13 years later, Isaac is born. But that makes it 2048. I put 2048 down here for Isaac. So he lives 180 years. So he dies in 2228 a.m. All right. Now, Jacob is born in 2108 a.m. Okay. And Jacob was 130 years old when he came to Egypt in 47 and 9. Let me get these dates in my book here. Genesis 35. So Jacob is at least 106 years old at 35, Genesis 35. Jacob has to be at least 106 years old over here. And then Isaac gave up the ghost and died in 3529. 3529. Isaac gives up the ghost and he died. So that would be his death date would be AM 2228. And all this you just confer and infer. A lot of this stuff is inference because so when the days of Isaac were 104 score years in verse 28 of 35, Jacob is 120 years old. No, excuse me. And the days of Isaac were 104 score years. 60, 80. Okay, Judith. And then 1850. I can't go through this whole book. It would drive you guys nuts here. So Jacob is in Egypt. Plus 430 years. The Exodus, 22. I got a lot of different things there. I can't drive you nuts with this because I drove myself nuts trying to figure this out. But as you can see, that'll take you so far with a calculator and a Bible, and you can get them AM dates. And then you can throw in your BC date and calculate it from there to see if you want to start with BC 4004 BC, and then just do these dates in reverse, and you'll find out what the BC date was when all this other stuff happened. So I got to get this out of the way here. And I want to get, I just went through that Genesis 10 real quick with you, but I got several pages of notes on these guys, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And but as you can see, this is where you see the Red Sea, you got the Persian Gulf here, you got the Black Sea, the Mediterranean Sea. So this is where Japheth wound up going for the most part. And then Ham went down here to Egypt, Ethiopia, and the Red Sea, and Shem stayed up here in the Middle East type area, where that is. And then here, you look at this, you can get a Caspian Sea, the Black Sea, and the Great Sea, which is the Mediterranean Sea. So you got all the Greece, the Macedonia. So this is all Japheth up here. And he went up there to even to Moscow and Russia, we call it that. And you got the Babylonian, the Persia down here, and Egypt, where Ham went over here, and Shem stayed over here. And we got some more stuff here. This would be the Babylonian Empire. There they were. Close that. And then you got the Persian Empire, where they did their thing. It was a little bigger, right? And then the Greeks, Alexander the Great, Grecian Empire, covered a lot of territory. He went way over here. Egypt, Grecia. So I look at all these maps. I love looking at maps for some reason. They're very interesting. It helps you a lot with when you're going through stuff. When you're doing genealogy and chronology, it helps to know where these things are on the map. And I read this several pages here. And let me see what I went started at. This one here would be infidelity. The fact of early, so let me back it up a little bit here. And secondly, the manner in which men are distributed. I don't know. I can't read all of this. And secondly, because we talked about when they were scattered and how the dispersion of the nations was, and there's a whole bunch of words we can get into with that. But just let me give you this. And secondly, yes, the manner in which men are distributed, or rather grouped, over the surface of the earth, as illustrating the ethnological chart laid down in the 10th chapter of Genesis. This last only, or the dispersion of nations, we propose to discuss in this present article, referring the other two to the article. You go see, if you go to Adam in McClintock and Strong, and if you go to man in McClintock and Strong, it'll give you all kinds of stuff. And the articles are the confusion of tongues, and the other article there referred to for the physiological part of the argument. We refer to the researches of Blumenbach and Pritchard and his elaborate volumes, okay? And then the fact of an early dissemination. Now, when was that? When it says that in Genesis 11:4, go to now, or come, let us build a tower up to the stars in the sky, and let us make us a name, our own Shem. And then there was scattering after that, the confusion of tongues. And when you read about, what's his name, Peleg, where the earth was scattered, and we'll get down to that. So we want to know when that happened, the scattering, the undutiful. I can't read all, like I said, I can't read all of it. Experiment the deluge, 8 persons forming the utmost 5 families would continue to dwell near each other as long as the utmost stretch of convenience would permit them. The undutiful conduct of Ham and his 4th son cannot well be assigned to a point of time earlier than 20 or 30 years after the flood. And I don't want to get into what Ham did. I think you think he just saw his father drunk. I think there was more to it than that. So long at least family affection and mutual interest would urge the children of Noah not to break up their society. The dread of dangers known and unknown, and every day's experience of the benefit derived from mutual aid, so you stay together, and that's what they were talking about, would strengthen other motives. So it is evident from Genesis 11:10 to 16, that about 100 years, according to the Hebrew text, was spent in this state of family propinquity. Propinquity is nearness or kinship or proximity. Why would they put propinquity? Why? Yet with a considerable degree of proximate diffusion. So they're together, but they're separated, which necessity would urge. But the dates of the Septuagint, without including the generation of the post-Diluvian Canaan, give 400. So they're still quabbling about what year or how many years it is since the flood, before the Tower of Babel. So the Hebrew period, much more than others, will afford a sufficient time for such an increase of mankind as would render an extensive outspread highly expedient. And then I got to skip down to a lot of stuff here. Thus it may appear. Let's see where that is. That's right after geography. Okay. Talking about the animals that were noxious animals would have multiplied immoderately. The religious obedience associated by the divine command with the possession and use of the earth would have been checked and perverted to a greater degree than the world's bitter experience proved that it actually has been. Thus, it may appear with pretty strong evidence that a dispersion of mankind was highly desirable to be in a more prompt and active style than would have been affected by the impulses of mere convenience and vague inclination. And if you go see geography in the McClinic and Strong, that'll drive you nuts for a couple of hours, but you get some good information in there. Vague inclination. So we're going to get down to this dictate of reasonable conjecture was realized, in fact, is determined by the Mosaic writings of the elder son of Eber. The narrative says his name was Peleg, which means division, because in his days the earth was divided. Genesis 10:25. Now that's 10:25. That's not 11:4. But the chronology, he could have wrote this before, and right, knowing that the Tower of Babel already happened. And this is repeated evidently as a literal transcript in 1 Chronicles 1:19. So it's also in 1 Chronicles 1:19. So if we might coin a word to imitate the Hebrew, we might show the paronomasia by saying the earth was peleged. Some are of the opinion that the event took place about the time of his birth and that his birth name was given to him as a memorial of the transaction. And we got this, here's his name here. He's Peleg, means division. It's a son of Eber, a brother of Joktan in the Greek. It's Phelek, means division. And the verb here is Peleg. No, that's the noun. And this 6385, I got it here, is the verb. And that's the palag, which means to divide. So in 1025, and unto Eber were born two sons. The name of the one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. So Peleg is the noun name, and palag means to divide. That's what to divide. So the name, I forgot what page I was on here. Okay. And the verb, verse Chronicles 29. The name was applied. Where is that? Is that before that? Yes, before that. The conjecture is more probable that in this instance, the name was applied in the individual's mature age, all right, on an account. So he wasn't probably born with this age, but it was given to him later on account of some personal concern which he had in the commencement or progress of the separation. But the signification usually given is by no means a matter of indubitable certainty. The verb occurs only in two passages mentioned, strictly but one. But this in Psalms 55:9 talks about divide their tongues, and Job 38:25 says, who hath divided the channel for the torrent produced by a heavy thunder shower. The verb, okay, that's 65:85, and we'll go down to the possibility, therefore. I can't read it all. The earthquake, where is it? Here. The possibility, therefore, of some geological convulsion cannot be denied. So, how did he get the name? Why did he get the name? But we know the earth was divided after that, or that it might have been upon a great scale and followed by imperfect effects upon the condition of mankind. The transpiration of some comparatively local interest, however, would seem a more appropriate occasion for the name of an individual than so worldwide an occurrence as the general distribution of mankind. But if the race was as yet confined to a narrow circle and a single community, the breaking up of that society would be a very signal event to celebrate in its name. And you go see Peleg and you'll read all about his name and how it came about. Detailed account, the earth's being divided. Okay. But neither the affirming nor the rejection of this tip. So they're saying, where did he get the name from? Why was the earth, why were they scattered? Why were they dispersed? We know why. It's plainly stated in the Bible, in Genesis 11, 4. Okay, the earth's being divided can the question upon the primeval separation and migratory distributions of men. The reasons which we have mentioned render it certain that some such event and successive events have taken place, and without urging the passage of disputed interpretation, it is evident that Genesis 10 and 11 assume the fact and may be considered as rather a summary recognition of it rather than as a detailed account. So we know there's no detailed account. We know that they built the Tower of Babel. They wanted to, it says that they wanted to build it up to the stars and the heavens, but actually what that means is they, at the top of the Tower of Babel, they put, what do you call that thing? A planetarium where they had the pictures of, they were worshiping the stars and the planets up there. And that's why they were scattered. Okay, so it doesn't matter what the reason was, they were scattered. Thus, 9:19, these are the three sons of Noah, and from these all the earth was scattered over. What's these words here I'm looking at now? Hold on a second. Records for detailed accounts, scattered over, 53:10. I got a bunch of them here. Hold on, let me go back to this. 53:10. Here we go. These are the three sons of Noah, and of them was the whole earth overspread. Naphats, let me put it up here big. Take Peleg out of here. All right, Naphats, break in pieces, scatter, dash, to shatter, to break. All right, so these are the families of the sons of Noah, according to their generations and their nations. And from these, the nations were what? Dispersed. I'm trying to see what words. The nations were divided. So it would probably be this verse here. There we go. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided. And here's another word here. We'll use this word. The word is parad, which means to separate, apart, divided. And you can see that the river, a river went out of the garden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted and became into four heads. Earth was divided, and then these are the families of the sons of Noah after their generations and their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. Who cares how long after, and who cares why? They just were. As simple as that. They were dispersed. And then you get the Gentiles. Let me put this here. Let's see, chronology. Let me back it up. We find the family, the flood. Here another verb is used, often occurring in the Old Testament, and the meaning of which admits no doubt. We find at verse 5, from these the isles of the nations were dispersed in their land. So these are the Gentiles being dispersed, each according to its language, according to their families and their nations. In 10:5, they were dispersed. And I'm seeing if there's another word there. Well, no, it's the same word. Okay, 10:5. And then in the latest composition of Moses, and if you want to look at chronology, you can look at chronology. And the latest composition of Moses is another passage which in the inquiry must not be neglected in Deuteronomy 32, 8 and 9. In the Most High's assigning abodes to the nations, in his dispersing the sons of Adam, he fixed boundaries to the peoples according to the numeration of the sons of Israel, and for the assigned portion of Jehovah in his people, Jacob, the lot of his inheritance. And you got this enumeration 04557. 04557. Didn't do it here. Is it here? Nope. 04557. 57. The number. Mispar. Number. Tell. And it's interesting when you look this up in the Septuagint. This is Deuteronomy. And when you put it in the Septuagint, it has a totally different meaning. Deuteronomy 8. What is it? 32, 8. Number of the children of Israel. 32, 8. Let me look at the Septuagint here. 32, 8. It says, the angel of God. Instead of saying the people, this is interesting. Let me put this back here. 32, 8. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, he separated the sons of Adam. He set the bounds of the people according to the number, and it says angel of God instead of children of Israel in the Septuagint. It says the Demeration. I wish I had the right fonts here, but you see angel of Theos instead of people. And the Area is the coast or the borders. I just thought that was interesting. It says angels of God instead of that. And so we're going to go down to, let's see, but the main passage of Scripture. Sorry for driving you guys nuts like this, but the main passage of Scripture, I don't want to read all that either. Main passage of Scripture usually relied upon to prove the fact of a sudden and violent disruption of primeval society into the germs of the early nations, as well as to explain its circumstances and cause, is the account of the building of the Tower of Babel. And we went through all of that, but the only supposition that would make the two occurrences compatible, if not connected, is that the whole body of the Noachites, while in process of migration westward with a view to settling in different localities, were arrested by the inviting character in the plain of Shinar until their purpose of diffusion was renewed by the divine interference. In the second place, it is not certain that either of the incidents thus associated is of so cosmopolitan a character as this theory assumes. By simply rendering land, and that's Aretz, or region, instead of earth, the whole affair is reduced to a petty dispute or misunderstanding among the workmen engaged upon a public edifice and a consequent dissolution of the particular cluster of inhabitants. It says they were all of one language. And what's this word? Aretz here is 6327. 6327. 6027. That's 27. That's scattered abroad. Oh, that's another word for scattered abroad. Okay, but I want to get this. Aretz here is 0776. Genesis 11. There we go. And the whole earth was of one eretz. Is it land or is it earth? Or is it just that little cosmopolitan place? Or is it the whole earth? Right? Eretz. The whole earth was of one language and one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar. And they dwelt there. Where's Shinar? That's Babylon, right? Ancient name of the plain lying south between the Euphrates and the Tigris. So what's between the Tigris and the Euphrates? It was where Nimrod established his kingdom and where the Tower of Babel was built. Amraphel, king of Shinar, was one of the 4 kings who fought against the 5 kings when Lot was taken prisoner. In later times, it was known as Chaldea or Babylonia. So it's Babylon. And thither some of the captives of Judah were carried. Isaiah 11:11. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand against the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, from Egypt, from Pathros, from Cush, from Elam, from Shinar, from Hamath, and from the islands of the seas, after they were scattered. All right? To recover the remnant. And you can look up all of the stuff about Shinar, but we know where it is now. And then there's another word here, scattered, puts. I guess that's where we get the word puts from. I don't know. Puts, scatter, disperse, to be scattered. It's another good word. We can't look at all of these TWOTs, but they're in there. I can put it up here if you want to look at it later. You can. But that's that. Puts. And then on the other hand, on the other hand, if I can get down to that, now the whole earth was one language, one speech. It's 11:12. Maybe I went too far here. Land, earth, mythology, mythology. There we go. I think, okay. On the other hand, if, as everything in the context seems to require, we conceive the descendants of Noah to have been at this time, say about the birth of Peleg, about 100 years after the flood, quite limited in numbers and extent, as the longevity of the patriarchs and their pastoral habits both indicate, we shall find no particular difficulty in taking the entire statement in its broadest and most literal sense as the opening wedge of that universal split which has since widened more and more in language and abode among the sons of men. So the dispersion went on and on. And we know that the preliminary considerations, I just underlined some stuff, preliminary considerations, and then there's in chapter number 2 here, it cannot be affirmed with certainty that we are here presented with the complete table of nations, even as existing in the time of Moses. Of each of the sons of Noah, it gives the sons, but of their sons, Noah's great-grandsons, it is manifest that all are not mentioned. And a lot of them are, but all of them aren't. And we have no possible means of ascertaining how many are omitted. Thus, of the sons of Japheth, in the line is pursued only of Gomer and Javan. Now he had 7 sons. You got Gog, Madai, Tubal, Meshach, and Tiras, but only Gomer and Javan are really covered in there. But the others are dropped without any mention of their issue. Yet we have evidence that nations of great importance in the history of mankind have descended from them. As you can see, Meshach, Tubal, Gog. All right. And then Ham had 4 sons. Of 3 of them, the sons, or rather the clannish or national descendants, are specified, but to Phut, the 4th, no posterity is assigned. And Shem, but we know Ham, he talks about Canaan, right? Shem, we got Ham. I got the list here. Hold on a second. Ham, you got Mizraim, Phut, and Canaan. Those are the 3 that are covered in the Bible. But we only know a lot about Canaan. The rest of them we don't know anything about. And then Shem had 5 sons, but the descendants of only 2 of them are recorded. It cannot be supposed that those whose sequence is thus cut off died without children, for as we shall presently see, nations of great historical interest may be traced up to them. And Shem had what? Elam. Elam is the province of Persia. Okay, Susa was the capital, and then he had Asher. We know Asher, that's Assyria and Babylonia, or the Chaldees, and he also had Arphaxad. That's the one that's in Genesis 11. So he was known as the father of the Chaldees, and then Lud, L-U-D, he's the father of the Lydians of Asia Minor. He's distinct from the Lud, or of the Ludum of Africa, from Canaan. And then you got Aram, and he's the name of Syria and the highland of Lebanon. And Genesis, Shem, and also Shem. I just wanted to point out that Shem was contemporary with Abraham. All right, so Shem went a long way, and all of these guys overlap. I mean, what was the list I had here? Yeah, I got some interesting things here. So Adam lived 930 years. So Methuselah knew both Adam and Noah. So when you talk about Adam, Seth, Enos, Canaan, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, of course he knew Adam because he lived to be 969 years. And he died in the year of the flood, Methuselah. So he lived right up to the flood. He knew Adam and he lived right up to the flood. So he knew Noah and Adam. And then Lamech, he was 56 when Abram died. All right? And he died 5 years before the flood, Lamech did. Okay? So Lamech, Adam dies right between Lamech and Noah. That's when Adam dies. 930 years he lived. So he dies between Lamech and Noah. And at that time, Abram is 59 years old. So Abram is 59 years old when Adam dies. You believe all this stuff? And then the flood comes in at between Shem and Arphaxad. And from the flood to Abram is 292 years. Just these little things that pop out when you do the math and you start subtracting and looking at these dates and when these guys died, and you see them side by side, and you say, wow, look at that. So Methuselah, he died the year of the flood. So where was I with this? And then what did I say? Cannot be affirmed. I got that. Thus, the sons of Japheth in the line is pursued only of Gomer. We got that already. Okay. Shem had 5 sons, but only 2 of them are recorded. Arphaxad and the other guy, Peleg, I think. It cannot be supposed that those whose sequence is thus cut off died without children. Okay, we got that. And then Shem had 5 sons, but the descendants of only 2 of them are recorded. We got that. Go down to 6 here. All this is good stuff to read, but although the list is geographical, its form is genealogical, and it does sometimes and may frequently state or convey the name of the founder of a nation or tribe, thus all those terminating in the plural. IMS, you see IMS, it says IMS, but those specified by Gentilian adjective, the Jebusite and the Hivite, etc. So Gentiles usually are ites, and Jews are usually ims. Okay, so let me see. The immediate sons of Noah, Genesis 10:21. Talking to, see, even this guy here says Japheth, Shem is the elder. He says Shem is always mentioned first of the 3 sons of Noah with the names that cut together, the order being Shem, Ham, and Japheth. In Genesis 10:21, he is called the elder brother of Japheth. No, he's not, which in the AV incorrectly translates the brother of Japheth the elder. Actually, there's no comma there. So where a comma after Jacob gives the correct sense. I don't think so. So then if Shem is the oldest, then Ham's got to be the second oldest, right? Because he's always mentioned second. No, he's not. Japheth is the oldest, Shem is the second, and Ham is the youngest. We know that to be true. And lastly, Shem. I can give you the verses here. We've been through that already. We know that already. Shem signifies name, Ham signifies hot or warm, and Japheth means spread. So these names are probably prophetical of the future renown of the Shemrites and the hot land of the Hamites and the spread of the Japhethites. And usually you can tell what someone's name means, and it usually goes. And there's a lot of stuff here. And they give you ethnology. And these are good things here. Descendants of Japheth. These are the main ones: Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, and Teras. And here's the Ashkenaz, Riphtah, Togarmah. We know Togarmah, that's in the Bible also. And then Gomer, it tells you all about Gomer and his descendants, the great-grandchildren of, well, actually the great-great-grandchildren, right? And then Magog, okay, we'll read about that. You'll read about Madai and Javan, Tarshish, Kittim, Dodanim, Tubal, and Meshach, northern nations. They can be traced to in the Moskai and the Tiberini, okay? And then we got the descendants of Ham here. Cash or Cush, Mizraim, Phut, and Canaan, and all of their descendants. Look at that. All right? All of those names, all these ites. All right? And then Cush, all of his descendants. All right? Sheba, Dedan, and Nimrod is generally thought to have been a remoter descendant of Cush than a son, and this is the usage of Hebrew genealogies may be held to sanction. He is the first and only known instance in the list of the leader of a dynasty rather than a parent of a nation or tribe. His name is followed by a parenthetical passage relating to his power and establishment. All right. Yeah, so he became, and that's what his name means, rebellious, rebellion. And then you got Mizraim, okay, Ludim, Anamim, Naphtamim. You can read all about these guys. Kalshin, forget about it. Can't get into all of these. And then Phut, and then Canaan, of course, famous. All right, Heth. Sons of Heth, Jebusite, Amorite, Girgashites, Hivites, Archites, Sinite, Arvadite, Zemarite, Hamathites, and then the descendants of Shem. Elam, Asher, Arphaxad, and Lud. And you get all, you can see where all these guys are from when you pull this volume down or read this later. That's why I'm going slow, so you can read it later if you want. And then the races, there are twofold races and languages, Caucasian races, Shemitic languages, white, Greek, Tony Brown, picture for ethnology. What's this one? Okay. Yeah, I think I printed this. Ham, Gomer, but it gives you all the names and where their identification, what their race was and what their language was. That's good. And then the order of the names, race, language, and the dates here. What are we talking about? Dates here. That looks good. The earliest, let me see, Genesis 10:12 indicates a period anterior to that of the kings who ruled Asher. Nimrod, the earliest of whom is placed around BC 1270. At the time of the Egyptian Empire, the capital appears to have been Nineveh, and the date of the list would therefore be anterior to that time, or at least to the reign of Thothmos III, to whom it was tributary about 1450 BC. You're talking 200 some odd years there. It appears, therefore, that the list was either written or put into present form not long after or at the time of Moses, if not earlier. But we know it was at the time of Moses because Moses put this together. And that refers to a yet earlier period than that of the spread of the Noachans. And there were names that were omitted that are in other parts of history. And this is interesting because most of these names are the Zamzumims, the Avims, and the Anakims. Who are these? These are the so-called giants. And these were the people that were like wiped out. Let me see here. Yeah, a lot of them were wiped out. We thus find an indication of an old population of Palestine, remarkable for their great height, that they were in race still more remote from their successes than had usually been held, has been argued from the Anakims being spoken of as the Nephilim. The term applies to the giants before the flood, where it was said that the Nephilim were in the earth in those days. And we know that the word Nephilim is different from the word giant, and it just means a bully or a bruised person. So the Nephilim were pre-Adamic race. You know, these guys. I mean, you can go back to Neanderthals and things like that. So that's, if you want to call them Neanderthals, and you can do that because there was actually something before Adam, and what it was, we don't know. So that was ethnology in the clinic is strong. Oh man, it's 8 o'clock. Something else I wanted to. Let's see. Secret Hidden. Where was I? Anything in the West, and I put out. I made a list of the encampments around the tabernacle. That took me a little while there. Okay. Noah was 502 years old when Shem was born. Shem was 98 and Noah was 600 when the flood came. And Shem was 102 when Arphaxad was born after the flood. Okay. Shem died at 600. So Methuselah and Shem were the two links between Adam and Isaac. You can go all the way to Isaac with that. The record of creation and man's fall come to Isaac on the testimony of the original chief actor, transmitted by only two intervening links. So the two intervening links are Methuselah and Shem, the two links between Adam and Isaac. So Methuselah knew Adam and Shem knew Methuselah and Abraham. So these people are getting firsthand accounts of what happened. All right. And I wanted to look at Revelation. I didn't even get into Revelation 20. We'll have to look at that some other time. But and Ezekiel, when it talks about these nations in the future, what is it, 20 and 8? I think I got it here. And shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. Now we talked about, earthquakes and all manner of things happening on the earth, and wars and rumors of wars. And you say, well, John, these things have been since the dawn of time, earthquakes, wars, rumors of wars. But the only thing that's different is that Israel now is back from the sword. In Luke 21, do a little bit of eschatology here, whatever you want to call it. 21, what is it, 24 or 26? And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. This is a key verse when you're talking about eschatology, when you're talking about prophecy. You're talking about the 70 weeks of Daniel, when you're talking about anything. This is a very important verse, because Jerusalem was trodden down of the Gentiles. Anytime Egypt wanted to attack Babylon, they had to go where? They had to go through Jerusalem. Anytime somebody from the east wanted to attack somebody from the west, they had to go through Jerusalem. And Jerusalem was trodden down of the Gentiles until what? May 14th, 1948. But more importantly, after that, the 6-Day War, June, whatever it was, 6-Day War, in 1967, I believe, 66 or 67, I think it was 67, when they threw the Jordanians out of Jerusalem. So you going from 1967, and then when it says that this generation shall not pass until all these things, this is the generation it's talking about, from 1967 until whenever a generation is. Is it 100 years? Is it 40 years? Is it 30 years? There shall be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, and upon earth distress of nations with perplexity. We know what perplexity is. It's aporia. There's no way out. No way out. Doubt, perplexed, pareo. And it's marpe in the Old Testament, and it just means there's no cure. There's no way out. So that's the difference between the wars and rumors of wars from the past and the present. And we can get into Ezekiel 27 and 28. I just want to touch on it real quick because we don't have time here. Well, we started a little bit late, didn't we? I don't know when I started. Where's Ezekiel? 37? I think 37. This is the dry bones. Okay, this is when Judah and Benjamin come together, the north and the south. They're not 10 and 2 now. It's 12. All the tribes are they're one stick, and join them one to another into one stick, and they shall become one in thine hand. And that happened May 14th, 1948. And then we talk about Gog and Magog. So this is a future prophecy here. We're talking about set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. And we know where all these people are today. And prophesy against him, and thus say the Lord God, behold, I'm against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. And Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, Gomer, all his bands. These are all the isles of the nations here. Togarmah in the north quarters and all his bands. So all of these people are going to attack at once. And that's a big difference between all of the, in 1948, before 1948, Israel, the Jews and the Arabs lived together right next to each other, hand in hand, side by side. and they were at peace or appeasement, whatever you want to call it. But May 15th, 1948, tens of millions of Arabs went to war against 100,000 Jews, and they're still there today. All the wars they had, the 53 war, I think it was, and then you got the Yom Kippur War, you got the 1967 war, you got all of these wars that they had. And the numbers, the outstanding numbers, they should have been wiped off the face of the earth. The only reason they're not is because God is keeping them there. Not for any other reason than just to be a time clock to let us know what's going on when the end is coming. And it's near. And then when all of these nations attack together, God is going to take his vengeance. And that's Ezekiel 38 and 39. And we can't read all of this now, but you get your Bible out and you read this. And 39 talks about the destruction. Therefore, thou son of man, prophesy against Gog, and thus saith the Lord God, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. I will turn thee back, but leave a sixth part of thee, and will cause thee to come up from the north parts, and will bring thee unto the mountains of Israel. So God's doing all of this. We don't have to worry about it. Say, oh my God, what are we going to do? Why is this happening? Why is that? Because God wants it to happen. And he's going to take care of it. You know, he will send a fire on Magog. Right? And he's going to, you read this at your leisure. Can't read it all now because we're out of time, but I wanted to get to this. The Valley of Hamon-Gog. How many times have we talked about this? Esdraelon, Jezreel, the place of where all the slaughters were. A lot of blood in this place here. The Valley of the Passage of the Sea, Hamon-Gog. 11 and 15. We can't get into that. That's Jezreel. That's where all the blood was spilled with Saul and Josiah, I think it was slain. And that's right in the middle of, that's Route 66 in Israel. So just stay away from Route 66, man. Oh, God, thank you for bringing us together here. This is just so much. And it takes time, and little by little we get it. We understand a little bit. We understand the genealogy. I think the genealogy is more important than the chronology. Chronology will drive you crazy trying to figure out who was when, who goes where. But the geography and the genealogy is pretty good when we get that together in our heads. But all we have to do is understand that you're doing everything. And we thank you, we love you, give you all the praise, honor, and glory, and we do everything in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. All right. Stop sharing. What happened to Mike?